Okay, I'm back, and I didn't have to go to any store because I'm sure some of you following along realize this. I didn't realize it till after I turned off the camera on the last clip. Remember, I had a small bolt, but I also have a big bolt too, right? And while it's 3/8, it is a longer bolt. So this is, remember from last time, it's like a little over 5, like 5 1/4. So what that means is I think this will work fine. And again, the washers, maybe they weren't as precise, but these washers are good enough to cover the top of that bushing. So what I can do now is slide this in. And I'm just using 2 washers to be safe on the other side. Now that gives me enough thread right there where I can then put this on. Tighten this down. Now as I want to get things aligned, right? So like get them aligned there. It's more important to get lined up here. I don't want that bushing to be off center, so I'm going to try to like watch that as I go. So I think what I may do is if we come over here to the vise, I think what I'll do is maybe I'll mount it in the vise and then try to turn it from the bottom. So I think that's what I'll do. So let me, sorry, not as prepared as I thought. Let me rest this here. All right, and this doesn't have to be too tight. Okay, and then what I'll do next is, if you look over here on the side, this is the bolt right here. So I'm going to actually tighten. I'll try to get a... all right. All right. So we'll try to get an angle there of everything. Let me back off a little bit. Oh, that's about as wide as I can go. All right, and then I need to get a wrench on here, right? So I think the wrench I'll need, is this going to be 1/2 inch, a little bit bigger. I'll probably need a 9/16. Will 9/16 do it? Yep, 9/16. Okay, so I've got the top and the bottom here, so I'm gonna tighten from the bottom and watch it from the... So the idea is, as I hope this makes sense as you're watching. So as I tighten this bolt, it's gonna squeeze, it's gonna basically push this down. Well, you'll see. So let's try this. So I'm gonna watch it go. I'm just slowly, it hasn't gotten enough where I need a second wrench yet. Is that? All right, so it's now tight. I'm just checking. All right, that bushing looks reasonably straight. I'm doing this by hand. I'm not doing a power tool, obviously, because you could mess something up really fast. So I'm going really slow with a hand wrench. Oh, let me hold that top. It's now, I think I'll have to get a second 9/16. Yeah, and I got my friggin', so my wrenches are all over the garage because I got stuff going on. So let me see if I can bring up a second. I know I got a... oh, good. Luckily I got lots of 9/16. All right, so now let me check again. I'm just visually inspecting here to make sure nothing's off. Okay, so now as I hold this, oh, now I'll just screw the top. Okay, so now it's easier. I can just spin it on the top. Is that going in all right? Let's see. All right. Well, it's screwing on there. I assume it's, I guess I could mark it with a, I could mark it with a magic marker and you could see it. So let me get another angle here as I go. And zoom in. Now the washer's a little off, but it's flat against the bushing. So I could back off and center him. Will I do that? Yeah, I'll just maybe do that real quick. So here, let me just back off it real quick. Loosen it a little bit. Get those washers centered. And then, well, did that help? Hold on. All right. Okay, that's a little better centered now. So let me just continue now. Now the good news is bushings don't cost that much. They're relatively cheap. So if you mess up this part, I already know how to take the bushings out. So if you mess it up, the worst case is you just take out the bushings and put a new set in again. I don't want to do that. I'd like to get it right the first time. So this appears to be working. I'm eventually going to get down to the bottom threads on the bolt at some point. In fact, I think I'm there right now. So if we look at the bottom, the thread, now I should be, so it definitely got lower, right? If you can, well here, I can compare. Let's look at before and after. So it definitely is pushing the bushing into the housing of the distributor. But I got to the end of my bolt here, so to speak. So what I have to do now is probably, is this going to work? I probably have to switch off and go to the other smaller boat. Let me try one more. No, I'm at the end. So what I've done is, so this is a little trickier than I thought. If you look, as I take this out, you can see right there I was at, can you see right here, that was the end, like right there, that's where my threads ended. So I couldn't screw, now what I could do, I got a few options. I could put a bunch of washers here. That's one option, I may do that. But what I'm gonna try to do real quick is look if that other bolt, take this out over here. Let's see if this one now, this is the 5/16. Yeah. So a little shorter bolt with the washers. Oh, look at that. That might just catch it. So let me do that. All right. So it looks like I found out by trial and error that you might need 2 different size bolts to do this project to screw it in. So now, same as last time, what I'm going to do is make sure the washers look centered. Started on the bottom, and now I might be able to just do it like this. So let me try this. Now, these aren't 9/16, right? So it's a 1/2 inch. So now I got to switch to a 1/2 inch on there, but then I need another one. I got to scrounge for a 1/2 inch. Do not have one, so in a pinch, what I'm going to do, I am going to use a crescent wrench. Since there isn't like a huge amount of force on here, I'm just gonna use this. God, this is really taking up a lot of time, sorry. Okay, so now, as we come over here a bit, I will continue now to basically wrench this down. Oh, washers are off. Crap, hold on. Get that lined up. That's not right. Okay, so I think maybe the bigger washers would be better if I had a choice. So let me get those lined up one more time. All right, that's a little better. Not perfectly centered, but better centered. And then you just keep wrenching down. Okay, this is it's going, but it's taking because I'm doing it by hand. I want to be careful. It's taking longer than I thought. But let's stop and do another checkpoint. So make sure it's not going in wrong. So like out of centered. So I don't see it like that's pretty centered on the top. That's going in, and again, if we just compare it to another bushing, I got it probably about halfway in. So I'm gonna keep doing this the rest of the way, but you get an idea, and I should have enough threads here. Well, we'll find out. I don't know. I could run out of threads on the bottom here too, but I'm gonna keep doing this so you get an idea of how I'm pushing the bushings in as I'm using this bolt method. So something unexpected happened when I was doing this bolt method. Somehow I stripped the nut here on these threads, and it was a perfectly matched. It was a brand new bolt and nut, and I was tightening it down, and something, I don't know, but like I stripped, you can see I just stripped it out. So these aren't expensive, but I wasn't expecting to have that happen. So what that made me do was switch over to the C-clamp method. So this is a 4-inch C-clamp. You can get this at pretty much any hardware store. You get them at Harbor Freight. And you can see I still have some of the bushing here that's not pushed in yet. So I want to see if I can do the rest of the way. Now this part is flat against here. So again, you want to make sure it's centered so like you can back off a little bit and just make sure that's centered properly on the bushing so it's applying even pressure. And it appears it is. Now, basically, this is the end I'm twisting, right, to make it go in here. And I don't have a this is loose. I had it in here in the vise, so let's do that again. So I'm twisting, and I guess it's going. Maybe it's my angle. Hold on. I'm getting on the side here. It's a little harder than turning the wrenches, but it does work. I think it's going to take longer. So let me... well, actually... yeah, I may have to put something around here to give me like a little pipe or something to give me more angle. There's not much angle here, much leverage to get on here. But this might work finishing up, so let me try that and come back. So this is the smallest pipe I could find. There might be a smaller one somewhere, but but this works. So I took this, looks like it's a big like nipple pipe, but you don't need a pipe this big for leverage. But you can see I put it on the end here, and then what I'm doing is holding it steady here. And I definitely can get more, this goes a lot easier, so I can get more leverage. And again, I'm watching the bushing as I do this. So this will definitely help as you get leverage here. C-clamp method is not bad. So I can't, if you got the pipe and you got the right size and you line it up, God, hold on a second. Sorry, folks. Okay, it's going off a little bit, so I need to back off. Shit, oh, because, all right, because my distributor body slipped in the vise. Let me see if I can just do the rest of it that way. So let me, is that showing okay? Let me back off. Ah, well, I'll need the pipe to back off too. Cut myself good there. All right, so let me, so it's almost all the way here, just to show you, I'm almost there. So that is almost pressed in. I just got to finish that up, but it appears to be pressing in evenly. I don't see any major damage, just to my finger, that's the only damage. So I'm gonna finish this up with the C-clamp. And I might start the bottom end as well with the C-clamp. So let's come back in a few minutes. Okay, I'm perfecting this as I learn it. So definitely, I think the best angle if you're using the C-clamp is you'll take this one end with a pipe, a cheater pipe, right? And you'll apply leverage this way. And then with your other hand, because like this rotates a bit, so you want to hold with your other hand, just hold that C-clamp. And you want to keep an eye, watch the top of your bushing, like, because if this will slide around a little bit. Like I said earlier, it's not as precise as the bolt method, but just keep an eye on it and just slowly. I don't want to damage it. My camera's like right here. So that's the best way to do it. And again, just you want to, as you're doing it, make sure you watch right there. If this slides off or gets off centered off your bushing, just back off, like, well, again, you need two hands, right? So just loosen this up. Loosen that up. And then readjust it as necessary. You can see I'm almost there, folks. Like, can you, like, that's just bare, I mean, that's almost in there. Sorry, can you, here, I'll zoom in. I'm almost there, so I can almost declare a success. Whoop, back off. Just that little, that's it. So the C-clamp method will work. So I may do that on the other end too, because my bolt option was unexpectedly cut short, so to speak. All right, here is the finished product. So the top bushing went in. I may, that's almost flat. I can see just, it's not quite even. There's just a slightly, like we're talking thousandths of an inch, maybe a few, one or two. But what I'm gonna do is, the bolt that's stripped out on me, what I'm gonna do is get a bolt, like a new bolt, and just tighten this down one more time and use this washer method maybe to push a little more. With the C-clamp method, I think that's about as good as it's gonna get. I mean, that's pretty, you could probably run that. That's so close to the top. Whoops, there. You could probably run the distributor like that, but I just want to get him pushed a little more. It could be improved like another 1,000. It's just, sorry, you can't see what I'm looking at. Yeah, I think I could get it maybe a little bit flatter, but that is successful there, I think. And now next I'm going to push in here. I may skip showing you, it's going to be exactly the same putting it here just on the bottom. So I don't know if I'm going to film that second part because I'm already way over time here. So I think as I start the second bushing, this is the bottom of the distributor. I'm trying the C-clamp, and the problem I have is starting it. It tends, the best description is this tends to wander. So the C-clip, this side should be machined flat. It's a lot flatter than the other. I can't, do I have the old C-clamp here? It's, no, I don't have, I must have put it back. But anyway, this is the flatter of the two ends, but as I try to adjust this, you'll see I'm trying to keep it centered on there. So I'll start it like this. And as I tighten down, so I think that's kind of straight, but then do you see like it, do you see how it wanders a bit? I'll try it again. So I think, wait, one more. This is kind of centered like that. And then I'm using my fingers to keep it centered. Don't want to pinch my fingers. And as I slowly am screwing this down, it's already off. God. It like doesn't want to stay even to start it, not to finish it, but to start it, it's very difficult. That's, yeah, I can, like, it's already, it wanders is the best word I can describe that. Whereas if I do the bolt method, so this is a flatter surface than this. This is a little slippery, not as, it's pretty flat, but not as flat. But with the bolt method, this didn't, I mean, when I did it on the other end, like when I started screwing this in, like it holds these washers directly. Like I don't get a lot of, and even if it slightly wanders, the washers are still there. So maybe to put this in, I'm gonna start the bottom bushing, start them in general with a bolt, and I could finish them up with a C-clamp, or I can get another smaller bolt. I gotta get, this is all stripped, but get one here to finish it up on a smaller length and see if that works. Yeah, the bolt method definitely works. So I'm still on the bottom of my, I said I wasn't gonna film this, but I did anyway because I thought it was important that even though it still wanders a little bit, there's not nearly as much play or slack as I tighten this down. And it keeps this bolt, the washer stays centered over that bushing. So as I tighten this down underneath, sorry, I'm holding the nut underneath, and hopefully that, yep, you can see that. As I tighten this, it's pushing the bushing down, but more importantly is those washers are keeping it. I don't want to put uneven pressure and damage, bend or damage the bushings. And this bolt method, at least until I get to the end of the threads, see I'm at the end of the threads, but at least it started it. So if I flip it over, I'm at the threads only go down here, so basically I had to stop here. So I think this is definitely the safer way, at least to start the bushings. There we go. Okay, fast forward, and I got both of the bushings pushed in. So the ones on the bottom, and the one on the top, it's pretty flat, even. So we're ready for reaming next. The bottom one got scuffed up a little bit, you can see here, but reaming should take care of that to even that out. I was curious to see, I saw some little patterns inside. I spread apart one of the old bushings. It's got tiny little dots, like little dents in the inside. I guess that is, I meant to look that up before I recorded this. It might be to trap oil, or it might be to help with the reaming process, but they have some kind of use. I gotta put a comment in here later. But that's what it looks like on the inside of a bushing. Let me see. Oh, so I found out why these bolts are stripping. So it puzzled me the first time, but the second time I was even using the larger diameter bolt, the 5/8, the 3/8 instead of the 5/16. And like this one's stripped also. And I'm like, what the heck? Two different diameter bolts, and they're both stripping as I try to push in the bushings. What's going on here? So what's going on? I figured it out the hard way. So you don't have to learn it the hard way. So what happens is it was the short answer is the washer, as you tighten the bolt, it was stripping the threads. So what happens is when you put the bolt in here and you put the washer on the end and then you're tightening the nut down, normally, now remember there's a bushing here, right? So imagine this when the bushing is sticking out before it presses in, right? So what was happening is when this washer was on top of the bushing, as I was tightening down, what happens is unless you keep that really centered, and I had it horizontal like this, what was happening is that washer was just resting, or probably as I was turning it, it wandered or just rested on the washer there. And then what happens is when you keep pressuring or pushing down on this, it starts damaging the thread. So it's like you can't really see in there. Because what normally, the way, I got an example here what it normally looks like. So normally with a washer, like, if you had like this washer, like a bolt on a frame or something fixed, as you tighten down the bolt, the washer doesn't move. So normally there's no problem stripping those threads. But the problem with the distributor and having this being moving, so the idea is as you tighten down this bolt and you push it in, this washer, I didn't have it exactly. So what I did was to get around that later, sorry, this is like a long video. I put the distributor in the vise and I had it like vertical like this. So that way I could monitor it. I could look directly above it and make sure those washers are staying centered. And a few times I had to back off, center it. And eventually the washer method, the bolt and washer method, did press it in the way I wanted, and it's nice and flush against both sides. So what did I do with the strip bolts? Well, luckily I have a thread chasing kit, and that's what I did. And I found out, by the way, it's a coarse threaded, these bolts I'm using are coarse thread, not fine thread. And I have another video you can look if you want to learn how to chase threads. The other thing about the C-clamp, this can work. I don't like it because it's just, I don't have as much control over this. So here's another thing I found out with the C, and this might be my C-clamp, but, get that up. Hold on a sec. Get this off. The other thing I found out is there's one end you screw and one end fixed, right? So as I was trying to press, I wanted this flat end, right, against the bottom. Well, guess what? As I look at the top here, do you see that won't meet, right? Because the body of the distributor won't let it go flush against there. So what I had to do was flip it, which is not a big deal usually. So that flat end goes here. But now I got this end, which I was trying to find like something flat, a flat piece of metal. And I dug up this is called a fender washer. It's like a really, I was looking for a flat piece of metal. I don't really, didn't have one easily available. This fender washer, I was trying to put it in here and then tighten the C-clamp down that way because I wanted it consistent. But, this kept moving around and I just, you could press in bushings for a distributor with the C-clamp, but I just, my preference after trying it both ways is just use the bolt method and just keep an eye and make sure your washers aren't off center as you're tightening down. And if you have a thread chasing kit, that'll help if you screw up the threads. These bolts aren't expensive, but you don't want to keep buying a bunch of bolts every time you strip them. Anyway, now I'm moving on to the next step, which is reaming. And I'll get to that next. Okay, let's get to reaming. So I've been reading about reamers, so to speak. This is a hand reamer, and it's not adjustable, it's fixed. This is an expensive piece of equipment. I don't know what it cost in 2015 or 2020, but in 2024, this is about 70 bucks before shipping and handling. So it's expensive. I hesitated to get it because it's not adjustable. It can only be used really for one purpose. But I got at least 2 distributors to rebuild. Maybe a few years later I rebuild more, so maybe I'll get my money out of it. But this is especially made for a Model A distributor. And real quick lesson on reamers, this will shave metal on the inside of the bushings to allow the shaft to pass through. This is hand reamer, and reamers are sharpened to go one way. So the blades, if you hold it counterclockwise, it cuts. I can feel the blades there just lightly. If I go the other way, there's no cutting. So what that means is when you go on one end or the other as you're reaming the bushings in your distributor, you always turn it one way. You never go back the other way. So as you're turning, as you go through and turn it, and even as you pull it back out, you're always turning it, in this case, clockwise. Now, with a distributor, I think most of you know, when it rotates, when it's on the head of the engine, it rotates counterclockwise. So one question I didn't know, I got to read up, is does it matter, like, if I'm reaming this clockwise, but the shaft is going to spin counterclockwise, is that optimal or not? Should it make a difference? Now, I'm probably going to run the shaft here with oil once it's all shaved out, but I could ream this way, so I may ream from the bottom, because if I go clockwise this way and I ream it, if you flip it up, that turns out to be counterclockwise on the top. So I'll try that. You should probably use some oil. Thick motor oil maybe work. I happen to have tap oil, so this is good for this kind of work. But if you don't have cutting fluid or tap oil, maybe some thick motor oil would be equivalent. What else? The shaft won't, like before it's reamed, the shaft won't go in if you try to put it in. Now, I think some people are saying, oh, I can just put the bushings in and then to put, like, if this were to go in without reaming, I would be concerned like it's not a snug fit in there or the proper fit. So if you try, it should not go in, the shaft should not go in because it hasn't been reamed yet. If it does, I would be concerned, but you know, hey, it's your distributor, see what works for you. What else did I want to say about reaming? Oh, this also does not have what's called a pilot. So I read like some reamers have like a starter guide to keep it, because what you don't want to do is have this, you want to keep it centered, right, as much as possible. You don't want it wobbling as you're trying to ream. And I'm concerned about that because I don't have like a pilot to guide this in here. So what I'm going to have to do is back to the vise. I could either lock the reamer in here like this and turn the distributor body on it, or I could lock the distributor in the vise and then turn the reamer this way. I might do this way because I would have a little more vantage point from the top looking down to make sure it's centered. And then I don't have a proper, there's kind of a special tool you can attach that is like square here with handles. I'm going to use a wrench to basically turn that. So I think that'll be good enough. So I'm going to try this out. Worst case, if I mess up my bushings, it's a few bucks and I bought some extra ones. So I could just pull these out and press them in again. I don't want to do that, so I want to make sure I get the reaming correct the first time. So that will be the next step. Okay, I'm starting the reaming process. I put a little of the tap oil on here to help it. It has a tapered tip. So when I started it, it kind of hopped in and it kind of centered itself. So I am watching it, but it seemed to go in by itself. I'm turning the top with a wrench, adjustable wrench. I have to say this is probably not the recommended way. I don't have it. There's like a special tap tool, which is like, it's got two ends on it, like two handles, and it's got an adjustable square. You can close it on the end of this and turn it. It gives you a little more angle. What I'm having to do in absence of that is I'm like putting this on the top, and I'm trying to like use my hand. I'm not on the sharp edge, obviously. I'm up here on the smooth part of the shaft, but I'm like turning it, and I'm trying to, again, one direction, clockwise. And I'm like, you can see it's gone through. I'm like trying to pull it down as it goes. It's not optimal, but that's what I'm working with right now. And then I'm checking under here, you can't see in the bottom, but I'm checking for when it comes through. In fact, there's a few, can you see that? Little bits of brass. There's little bits of metal. I can feel it. I don't know if you can see it, but it's definitely reaming. It's cutting the inside. So let's go finish this process, and then I will take the new shaft, not the old one, and we're going to try to fit it through and just see how it fits. Okay, I'm finishing up reaming. What I did was I checked on the, you can't see on the bottom, but leave enough room because you want it to go, you want the reamer to go all the way through both bushings. You want to like, I guess what, line bore it, but you want to, and then when you take it out, remember, don't counterclockwise it out. So when you take it out, and by the way, it's a lot easier coming out. You can feel it coming out. So what you do is, I'm just grabbing and pulling it up, and again, keep rotating it clockwise, and it just comes out like, ooh, look at all that metal. So you can look, those are all shavings of the inside of the bushings. So, moment of truth. Now we should, oh damn, I want to clean this out. I don't want to put the shaft in. Hold on a sec. Sorry, I'm not prepared. How about if I just take one of the old bolts? Let me put this down. Let me try to just quickly clean it that way. Yeah, I can see there's shavings. I'm just trying to, I don't want to have the shavings cut. Try to clean it out in there. This is not the best rag. I should get a pipe cleaner. Well, I won't put it all the way through, but I think the top part is okay. All right, mostly clean. All the oil's gone, I guess. So let me just, so this is a brand new shaft. What I want to do between video breaks is, I think the shaft that was in there before, I want to measure these with a micro. I want to see if they're both the same diameter. But anyway, let's check with the new shaft, because you should be using new parts. Just assume everything old is. Ooh, look at that, folks. That is, ooh, there is a slight. It goes in smooth, but I do, there's a little play. I don't know, like like 1/1000ths. I can hear it. So let me clean that out. Ideally, you don't want any play, but I may have to live. I mean, I'm using the right reamer size, so I can't, you know, change that. So let me put that together, put some oil on, and then let's see what it looks like after I clean it out and try the shaft. Okay, lots of good learning moments here. So my concern earlier is okay now. So what I did was I put oil on the new shaft, and I put it in this way where it should go, like top to bottom. And you have to get it through both bushings. So the first bushing, you'll feel a little play, but when it goes through and touches both bushings, then it's like there's no play. So that's how I want it. I expected it to be like solid in there, no movement at all, which it is as I hit this. But I'm hitting another small problem is it's not going all the way through. It's like bottoming out. I'm hitting a burr or something at the bottom, so like it's stopping there, and it's well, actually, is it working through? Maybe I could work it. I could run it out, right? So, oh, I'm running it. So maybe, so what is running out? I was gonna get to that next. Running it out next would be, you put a lot of oil on it, and you hook it up to like a hand drill, and you just spin it, and remember, it goes counterclockwise when you're on top of the distributor, and you just run it a few minutes, and it just kind of helps it seat in there. It's called running it in. That's what it was explained to me. So that might, but this bottom, it's not going all the way through. Maybe I could try to run it out. I don't want to ream it again. Maybe I could just lightly sandpaper the ends if it's like a little burr on the end. I don't know. So I'll figure that out. But the good news is if you're testing it and you got it in, if you're just at the first bushing, there'll be some movement. But then when you, because you kind of like line board it, right? So like now when it's in that second bushing, that's real solid. So that's like better. Okay, good news. Let's go on to the next step. Okay, let's catch up from the last time. So when you first ream it, you want to make sure you get all the metal particles out, right? And so There's a few ways you can make sure you can get that out. I have this is nylon, it's not metal, a nylon bottle brush, and you can just basically clean it that way to get it out. You can use a clean rag, so you take a clean, maybe microfiber towel perhaps, but like you get something small that's not sharp, and you could run it through here and clean the inside of the bushings. Now if you have a high pressured air hose, that's probably the best to use. Mine is a pain in the butt. It's like I don't want to hook it all up just for this small thing, but if you happen to have like, you can get this canned air and it's just compressed air in a little can, and so you can clean it out that way. You can even use a carb cleaner. So if you have carb cleaner around the garage, just spray this. That'll help get it out. But after you make sure it's clean, then you want to make sure that when you put the shaft back in, you put oil on it. So when it was the last video, it was hard to go through and it wasn't going all the way. So what I did was, let me say I did not ream it a second time. I'll get that in a second. I very lightly sanded, like 400 grit, the very edge here in the bottom, and that allowed the shaft to pass all the way through, no problem. Now, when I first put it through, it would not turn, it was very stiff in there, right? Like too stiff. So I think once you ream it, you don't want to ream it a second time if you don't have to. So the better way to do that is what's called, you run it in with a drill. And so what you do is you take this shaft and you put some oil. I think clean motor oil would be fine. I happen to have tap oil, and so this can work as well. I'm doing on the side here. So just rub that in. That could be good for your lubrication. And what you want to do is after that's in, so again, there's no play. Like that's in there perfect. I did a good job on that part. So I happen to have two drills, so not all drills are created equal, right? So I first used this drill, and I was like, oh, the shaft doesn't, the shaft is too big for the end. Luckily, I had a second drill. I'm not advertising drills here, but if you look, one drill's got a bigger chuck than the other one, right? And so this one, I was able to fit the shaft on there. And so all you got to do is just open it up. Now you want to make sure it rotates counterclockwise, because when your distributor's in your Model A engine, it rotates counterclockwise. So I want to turn in the same direction. So make sure you're spinning counterclockwise in the right direction. And then all you do is just lock it down here, get it tight. All right, that's pretty tight. Don't get caught on your thumb there, and you hold it, and you just let it go like that. Mine, I don't know how yours will turn out. I ran it for like a minute or two, and that seemed like where it was really stiff. Then it was like, oh, I can turn it now. So what I'm going on to next is I need to put the pin in here and the sleeve and the washer. I need to basically adjust so that the vertical play, like there's no vertical play. So I need to do that next. I'm successful in the bushings, this shaft, like there's no, even if I had a feeler gauge in there's like, it's in there good. Like it turns, but no slop, no like, you should not be able to like get any movement at all. So next I'm going to work on the vertical part. For adjusting the vertical play in the shaft, there's two washers you're going to use. There's a very thin steel washer that goes under that collar. It'll go under right there. That's on the top. And on the bottom, you're going to use where the sleeve goes on. I haven't put the sleeve on yet, but before the sleeve, you'll put on, this is a fiber washer. So the names of these are, this very thin washer on the top is called a Distributor Cam Shaft Thrust Washer. So 5 words for that little piece. And then this little fiber washer is a Distributor Shaft Sleeve Fiber Washer. So what's interesting is, remember I showed you the original diagram here I was going by. I'm not saying it's a bad diagram, but it's incomplete. So this Mafka Hershey 2012, it is missing this thin camshaft thruster in the diagram. It's not anywhere there, but I know it's there because remember earlier in the video I took it out. It was already in there before I disassembled it. And so what I did was gonna give a shout out to these guys. So this is Bratton's Antique. In their catalog they show diagrams, and sure enough, if you look in their diagram, they got this little part here that's 29A, and if you look on the table, you can't see it's too small, but 29A is camshaft thrust washers. So this diagram properly shows where those 2 washers go. This one's almost complete, but it doesn't have that. So if you're potentially downloading and using this diagram, just take a note, it's missing this thin steel washer. And let me show you where it goes. So the next steps in my video will be, so that will go on here, like that. And so it's on there where this, like the collar on this shaft, and then you slip it through like that. And then what you'll do is, I'll take this fiber washer out of the bag, but I'll put it on the bottom there, and then you will put the sleeve. Sorry, I am not as organized. You will take the sleeve, make sure that's all the way down, and put that on the, like that. So there's a hole, you got to line up the hole, you got to put the pin in there. So I'll do all that next. And so when you're adjusting the vertical play, you don't want to put the pin all the way through yet. So this little pin here, this pin, which goes in that hole right there. What you want to do is, do you see how it's kind of like part the way? You don't want to push it all the way through yet. You want to, in fact, we just do it now. So, oh, I don't have the, so there's a little bit of play, but I didn't put this fiber washer on yet. So I'm going to take a break, put this on, and let's adjust. And then when you've got the play taken out vertically here, then you're all set to go and you can finish this up. So this project is almost done. Thanks for sticking this far into the video. Okay, I got the fiber washer on the bottom here where the sleeve goes, and it looks like it would line right up. You can see the hole through there. I see daylight. So I got the pin, but it just doesn't quite, it's just not going through. It's just a little off to keep this pin from going through. So what you have to do is take a little bit off the washer, and you're going to take it off the fiber side. Don't try to sand or file down the metal washer on the top. Do this bottom one. So what you'll do is you just have to do it a little at a time, and you could use either sandpaper and just rub it back and forth like I can't. Well, you get the idea, like this. Or if you have a file, you could do it like that. But just do like a little at a time, try it, adjust it. So I'm going to do that a few iterations. And when it fits where I can get this sleeve on and put the pin in without having to force it through, then I got the right size. So just take a little bit off this fiber washer so that everything can line up. Okay, I sanded it down enough where the sleeve will fit on. So I decided to use the sandpaper method. You can see all the pieces of, this is a red carbon fiber, so you can see all the red dust I am using I don't want to spill it all. Can you guys, it's 220 grit. There it is. Can you, well, I'll spill it anyway. Crap, now I gotta clean my distributor again. Anyway, I was trying to flip it to show you the grits, 220. And what else? So keep in mind, it will file your nails. So you see, I got a very straight fingernail there, and that's from basically, if somebody has a better idea, I was just basically, I couldn't find it. I was just going back and forth like that. So just keep in mind, if your fingernails are short, they're gonna get shorter afterwards. No big deal, they grow back. So after that was done, I tried it a few times. I clean it in between. I got a rag over here. So I slide it on, put the sleeve on. I'm gonna get all this dust cleaned up before the final assembly. But then for just fitting, it took several times. Like, I just go a little bit at a time. I don't want to overdo it. But then finally, I got the pin through. So you can see right here. If I had it through, folks. Hold on. Only when I'm crap. Only when I'm videoing does it become difficult, but son of a bitch, come on. All right, there. I swear this just went through. Okay, one more time. Otherwise, I'll have to maybe refilm this part. There you go. So do you see how, and I didn't push it all, well actually it's almost all the way. You can see that's how you want it. So now you got that in there. You got the washer on the top, the fiber washer on the bottom. So now we're gonna test, just yank on it. Turn, like make sure it turns. So turns good by hand. So still turns fine, no slack there. And to be honest, I must have got the carbon fiber just right. There is like no, wow, didn't know it would be that good. There is no slack kind of going up and down. I couldn't even get a feeler gauge in there if I wanted to measure. So I'll push this, I'll get this all the way set up and done. So I think at this point we are close to being done for basically replacing the bushings in the shaft in a Model A distributor. This is just a quick aside. When I got this used distributor, the shaft looked like it was in pretty good shape, but you can't eyeball it, of course. You have to measure it. So this is the new shaft. This is the old one. And so I got a high precision caliber measure tool here. Now, it is from Harbor Freight, so I know it's not like, $1,000 tool, but for something, under 50 bucks, this is not bad to have in your toolkit. It measures in thousandths of an inch. And I measured old and new, and they're pretty much, so these are like a half inch, right? So 500 of 1,000 inches is half. And it's potentially off, like, here, I'll do this one. It's like this one is, it's actually can you see it? It's like 499. It's like 1/1000th off, which I think is okay tolerance. And it might be the caliper, because when I measure the new one, well, that's actually right on, that's, that's dead on 500 thousandths of an inch. So all this is to say, if I wanted to, I could reuse this, I think. I'll just keep it as a spare. I don't know, I'll just keep it. But I got the new one, I already paid for it, so I'm just gonna use the new shaft. Okay, there's one final important thing you need to do before you finish the project. And that is, once your distributor shaft is mounted, not completely assembled yet, you got the washers in, you've already reamed it, you've already run it in. You want to make sure it doesn't wobble as it rotates in the distributor body. And so how do you check for that? So I'm going to use a couple of tools here. I got these from Harbor Freight. I know people slam Harbor Freight for quality, but everybody's got some Harbor Freight tools in their garage. If they say they don't, they're lying. This is a dial indicator, and this is a magnetic base fine adjustment. You really need that, like, You could get this and do a homemade kit or jig to like mount it and adjust it, but I've really found this is worth the extra money to get this. I've used this several times when I have to measure things very precisely. So let's get back to measuring precisely. So how are we set up here? I put the screw in the top of the distributor shaft so I can turn it with a screwdriver. And then I've set up the dial over here. I'll just take a quick peek over. It's at 10, right? So 0 would be, I want it a little bit above 0 because I want to measure negative and positive movement, so in and out in case it wobbles. And if you can see, like it's, if I just tap it there, you can see. So what I'm going to do is, ideally I have no flux, so here I'm going to, ideally it shouldn't move at all, right? So if it's perfect, this dial, and this is in increments of 1/1000th of an inch, right? So I have this little marker here on 10, it's like a little above 10/1000th of an inch. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to rotate this shaft as we watch the dial. Okay. So it's, I don't know if you can, in the video I'll have to see if it shows up in my camera, but from what I see looking directly at it, it's going in and out. It varies about 1/1000th of an inch as I rotate it counterclockwise. So I think that's pretty good, only 1/1000th off as far as centered. To be honest, I'm not going to redo this project because it's off 1/1000th. If it was off, I don't know, 3-4 thousandths, I might have to go back and start over, but that's pretty good tolerance. So I think at this point, I can claim success that the shaft and the new bushings were replaced, rebuilt properly, and now you would just finish up the project. I don't know if I'm going to have another clip, but things are falling apart here. But like, you know, put the plate back in, I'll clean it up, I'll probably put new points, check the conductivity here in the bottom. So there's a lot of videos that do that part, but because I really didn't see a good video showing rebuilding kind of the innards on this part, I wanted to take some time, and it was more time than I anticipated, but hopefully it's been useful for those of you that are following along. Thank you, and good luck on your Model A projects.